afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Phatkat Collections. Today we're doing another fragrance review. So today I got Pour Homme Nighttime. Now it doesn't say nighttime anywhere on the bottle that I can see. It just says Azzaro Pour Homme. Now there's a lot of different flankers on this particular juice, like most brands, like Issey Miyake. What I found a lot of times with flankers is that it really depends on the brand. Some are extremely similar to the original, and other ones are quite a bit different. So it really just depends on the flanker. A lot of times with stuff like this, if you're the kind of guy who collects fragrances and likes to blind buy, and that's kind of the fun for me. Of course, most fragrances out there you're gonna like. Nobody's really making anything that's really terrible. Although there are some that are more daring. I don't think anything really smells bad. I've in my whole life of collecting fragrances, I've really only found one that I couldn't wear. So I have a pretty good collection right now. I think over 150, 200 different fragrances, all different price points, some samples, some full bottles. So, pretty good idea of what's out there. So one thing I enjoy about, again, the journey with fragrances and blind buying is the surprise I'm going to get. It's kind of like a kid on Christmas morning. Even though you know what's coming, you can look at the notes, you can kind of make a judgment call, but ultimately, you just don't know what you're going to get until you actually put nose on it, right? So this one here, again, Nighttime Azzaro Pour Homme. There's a few that I want to get now. The price point of this was under 20 bucks. So incredible. I love $20 cheapies, Anything under 20 bucks is kind of like my price point when it comes to fragrances. Now, it doesn't mean I don't find ones that I'll spend more on. Most recent acquisitions was a bunch of the Issey Miyake brand, and I absolutely fell in love with their newer stuff. Now, I know they have a lot of different fragrances, a lot of newer than some of the stuff that I got, but just an example, the one that I pulled up right now is really my favorite fragrance right now. It's Issey Miyake Nuit d'Issey. And so this particular fragrance I bought because, one, the price point, two, I've been wanting to try some Azzaro stuff, and three, there was a comparison to this made on Fragrantica. So some folks actually compared this to, of course, another Azzaro fragrance. The one they compared to is Azzaro Pour Homme Intense, John Varvatos Vintage, Nuit d'Issey Austral Expedition. I don't have that one, nor have I smelled that one, but I do have, like I said, several Isseys. What's this one here? Beyond David Beckham, which is kind of interesting. I will check that out, see what the price is on that. And of course, Nuit d'Issey, my favorite fragrance. So knowing that it was compared to two fragrances, two flankers by Issey Miyake, the Austral Expedition, I believe is a flanker of Nuit d'Issey. I believe Nuit d'Issey was the original. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I figured I might like this. So right off the bat, I'll tell you that when it comes to the comparisons there, and not a lot of people compared it to Nuit d'Issey, about 12 people, I can't really state that this reminds me of that fragrance. When I first smelled it, I would not have thought Issey Miyake Nuit d'Issey at all. After smelling it, comparing the two, I can kind of see maybe on how somebody might have gotten that impression. 12 different people, obviously they're not, making it up. And I think from what I can tell with this, a lot of times when notes are layered, they kind of mimic other notes. So I think what really what makes people have that comparison, and just by looking at the note breakdown, is the fact that both these fragrances have pepper, of course. They have vetiver, and they have bitter orange. Now I think that, Issey doesn't have the bitter orange. Issey has grapefruit and bergamot, and they are citruses. So citruses are very similar, and when you start layering that with other notes, I don't know if you can really tell the difference between a bergamot and a grapefruit and a bitter orange, you know what I mean, or just a regular orange. So again, that's just my opinion. I mean, it's not wrong, it's not right. It's just my opinion on what I smell. What I do notice about this, and what I've read about this fragrance, is that one guy said, if you don't have this, you won't have anything in your collection that smells like this. And so why I'm really happy with this is because that's true. Of all the fragrances I have, all the different flankers of Issey Miyake, all the different types of fragrances, I have these notes. It doesn't really smell anything like anything that I have in my collection. It is very unique. I think it's a pretty safe scent. A lot of times when you think about dark fragrances like this in dark bottles, we get the idea that they might be very dark and daring fragrances. I don't think this is. This to me is more of a fruity fragrance. And although I've never really smelled rhubarb, I don't really know what note that really smells like on its own. I can tell you that I think that's what I'm getting a lot of like here with this fragrance. There's a huge rhubarb and bitter orange blast right in the top notes. Now that does sort of settle down a little bit, where it does kind of have a woody, kind of peppery scent. It's unique. It's different. Now, again, when I spray a fragrance on, I've already killed the trigger on this thing. I've been blasting myself. I'll tell you that I think it does change. I think you start to lose that rhubarb, but it's very difficult when you spray this stuff on. Unless you're outside, you know, it kind of radiates in the air and you kind of acclimate to it, you know. So it's really difficult for me to continue on smelling the different notes. I only get one opportunity, and that's right when my nose is fresh. But I will tell you again, it is a pretty awesome scent. I think this is really a hidden gem. It's sweet without being super cloying. It's very unique. Again, I've never smelled anything quite like this, and the notes that are in this, I'm familiar with. So I think really what you're getting with this, the real difference is that blast of rhubarb. And I didn't really think rhubarb had much of a scent when I smelled rhubarb at the grocery store. I don't really, get like, oh, that's rhubarb, But it is an amazing juice. Again, guys, remember when I do these fragrance reviews, I'm just telling you about the value, the price, and maybe bringing some awareness to the actual fragrance. Ultimately, this stuff is really up to you to decide whether you like it or not, and whether or not, you like some of the notes that I like. I'm a huge fan of ouds and woods and dark fragrances. So if you have smelled fragrances like Issey Miyake Nuit d'Issey, Blue Astral, when you compare some of the flankers by Issey, I think Blue Astral, Issey Miyake Nuit d'Issey Parfum, and of course the original Nuit d'Issey, I think all three of those are extremely similar. When you start getting into some of the other flankers, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but some of the other flankers, there's one that smells like Reflection Man, I believe. They start to become very different, and I wouldn't really suspect if I smelled two of those side by side that one was a flanker or the other. Now again, I haven't smelled any other Azzaro fragrance besides Chrome. It is kind of what I call my Vegas juice. Because anytime that when I go places or I take a vacation, I like to hit it with a new fragrance, and then that always, to me, fragrances imprint on my mind with memories. I don't know if you're like that, but I'm definitely like that. So when I have a kind of a fun memory, a new vacation, new trip somewhere, one occasion it was hanging out in Vegas, and it'll always remind me of Las Vegas. Other fragrances remind me of dates and different, relationships in my life and different people. So I think it's kind of fun to not only, walk this journey of fragrance collecting, but also to, I think, you should be a little selective on when and where you wear fragrances, because if it's a new juice and it's something special in your life, I think it just might imprint on that and make a memory out of a scent. No, you may be totally different, again, but I think that most people are pretty similar whether you realize it or not. So pretty awesome juice. Again, as far as the notes, let me just read you the total notes here. Rhubarb and bitter orange in top notes. In the middle notes, you have nutmeg and pepper. Virginia cedar and vetiver in the base note. So I'm a huge vetiver fan. Ever since I started smelling fragrances like Ancre Noir and these Issey Miyakes, I'm a huge fan of that note. And again, there's a lot of fragrances that I probably have that have vetiver and I don't even realize it. Remember, when I'm doing a review with these fragrances, I'm giving you the average Joe's review, the average guy's review on what I smell. I'm not a professional, perfumist. I don't have a super well-developed nose. There's other guys out there who probably train their nose and smell every note and can tell you what those notes are. I think a lot of guys, when they review fragrances, kind of take you on the journey of just reading the notes and telling you what happens, and they create a story. And I don't really think that most people can pick up a fragrance, even knowing the notes, and be like, oh yeah, I can pick that out. I think a couple notes are really going to stand out with a fragrance, and I think that once you get to recognize a few of those notes, and let's say it's something that you really like, you'll find other fragrances that might have that note that you might like. I'm pretty open-minded with fragrances. I like them all for the most part. Very rarely do I have something that's, I can't wear. Even ones like that are daring scents like Zoologist and PK Parfum has some very daring fragrances. I can wear most of them. Again, there has to be a time and a place. I'm not going to go ahead and wear, Zoologist Bat if I'm going out somewhere with a really tight group of people, and I sure as heck, you have to kind of realize how many sprays you need on a fragrance. There are fragrances you can really overdo, and it's really not going to make a difference. And I guess it's not really overdoing, but if you really go to town on that trigger, 10 sprays, you'll be good to go. Not really a big deal. You go 10 sprays on Zoologist, you know, that's going to be extremely, I'm going to have to hose that off, you know. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on Azzaro. Again, it was compared to these other fragrances. If you are a fan of Issey Miyake, Invicta, I wouldn't expect you to go ahead and get this in. If you're looking for maybe a cheaper alternative and be like, all right, this is going to smell like Nuit. And sometimes, you know, Nuit is about 45 bucks. For 20 bucks, because it's such a favorite fragrance of mine, I'd love to have something that's a little bit cheaper that you can get for under 20 bucks. But if you're thinking that this is going to smell like that, it absolutely does not. And again, not a huge breakdown of the people that state that this reminds them of different fragrances. I do think this is probably going to be one that's more in its own category. There's a few other fragrances they've compared this to. Some of the Armaf ones, Hugo, Onyx. There is a, which one's this one here? Cuba Black, which one? Or Cuba Hollywood. I have not smelled Cuba Hollywood. That might be an alternative to this. Not really sure. But I think that, again, if you are an Encre Noir guy, and I don't mean to say that like this smells like that, but I think that this is a fresher, fruitier scent than those more darker dairy fragrances. But there is something dark about this, and I know other guys have said it's not a dark fragrance. I think there is an element of darkness to this, and I think that's really the wood and vetiver. I think anytime you add wood and vetiver to a fragrance, it starts to darken it. So again, that's a color comparison when it comes to fragrances, which is, again, these are all things that we just kind of have to kind of walk our own path this and discover these things. But that's kind of the fun of my scent journey, is being able to buy something and not know what I'm getting, and check it out, wear it, and review it. So pretty fun. I do have 2 more fragrances coming in the mail. Two by Yardley. I think it's Yardley. One is Elite. I think the other one is Gentleman. They were like 12 bucks. So those are fun cheapies, Sometimes, if you go like Dollar Tree and stuff like that, those fragrances are so watered down, it's almost like not wearing it. So I've messed around with that in the past, and I think for real cheapies, yeah, I've always said, there's no excuse not to smell good. You can go to town on those dollar store cheapies. They don't smell bad, but they just don't last. Something like this, I've had this on now for about an hour. It's pretty strong, and I've put a lot of it on today. So we'll see how that works out when I go out here in a little bit. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you like the content, do help me get this out. Help me finish this video. Do subscribe to the channel if you like the content. I hope you do. Great fragrance. I think you'll really like it if we share kind of similar tastes. I think anybody's going to like this. I think this is definitely going to be a compliment getter. Not that that's, a big concern of mine, but it's always nice to get a compliment. I think this is great. The price, you really can't go wrong. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment. Drop me an email if I can help in any way. As always, guys, have a great weekend. Be kind to one another and take care.